Good afternoon. Hello, Mr. Franco.
Nice to meet you.
I wanted to ask you something about yourself. Can you introduce about you, how you came in the industry, and after that, something about Marposs, what Marposs is doing right now?
Okay, very good. So, my name is Franco Stanghellini, and I work for Marposs since 1995, so quite a long time. So I've started the first years in R&D departments, and later I moved to the commercial departments, uh, taking care of one specific sector that was automotive injection. Marposs as a group had been always involved with the automotive market a lot, so we had a specific product line for injectors. It was for the internal combustion engine, were very crucial components, and I've worked in this field for I would say more than 17 years. And then starting from 2017, I've moved from the responsibility on a component of internal combustion engine to something completely different. We, as Marposs, have started to see the electromobility transition as a potential risk for our business, but as Mrs. Did also said, also a great opportunity. But we definitely needed to be prepared for this transition because the quality issues for components of an electric powertrains are quite different with respect to what we had faced for so many years in respect to the quality issue for the manufacturing of mechanical components of an internal combustion engine. So that's why we have created, starting from 2017, a team of engineers that started to study the components and the manufacturing process of the electric powertrain. And this is where I've started to work in this field.
So right now, Marposs is present in how many countries?
Marposs as a group today has around 3,500 employees. As a presence with our own organization, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 32 countries?
Around 32.
Something like this.
We are also enlarging our operation on other markets.
So, could be not fully updated about the number of offices, but I would say that generally speaking, the traditional process that we had since the very beginning was to be worldwide, side by side with the customer, having local, commercial, and after-sales service organizations. So that means able to provide direct support on sales, but also for service near to the customers.
And Mr. Franco, before we were off the record, we were discussing about your competence centers. Can you let us know, our audience, more about these centers and how they are helping A, Marposs, and B, the customers through these centers? How are you helping them?
Good. The Marposs strategy to, let's say, for growth, for many years have been based mainly on internal R&D development. Starting from year 2000, we have, in parallel to internal R&D activity, started also to grow through strategic acquisition in fields that could be synergic with our traditional product portfolio. One of the very first examples was been MG, which is another company located in Italy, having expertise in leak testing machines, leak testing applications. And this was an example of very good opportunity for us to add a quality control, the control of the perfect sealing of a component that had, let's say, a complementary need in respect to the dimension of it. This was just an example because I think that till today, correct me if I'm wrong, we have done 28 acquisitions.
29.
29.
Last one is in 29, last 21 years. If I'm not wrong.
Okay, that's amazing.
Okay, but also this is a number which is changing
Yeah.
because we are continuing in this approach. So that means we balance internal developments, and typically the developments are focused on the technologies and the applications that are naturally expanded from our traditional portfolio. And to balance this through with acquisitions in fields where the developments would take too long to fill a gap that for some specific topics would be really difficult to fill
Correct.
with internal development. So, coming back to your question about our competence centers for electromobility, we see a mix of these two strategies because we continue to make internal developments on gauging and inspection in our headquarters in near to Bologna. Bentivoglio is the headquarters of our group, is where I work also, is where we are developing some of the products that we have also here. Example is of the cloud, is a gauge to expressly designed and conceived to measure from a dimensional point of view with a 3D complete reconstruction of the part, hairpin stators, which is one of the core components of an electric power train. Okay? And this is an example. In parallel, we are developing solutions dedicated to other typical quality control problems in the electric powertrain in other companies of the group. An example is the company that I mentioned before, MG.
Yes.
MG has experience in leak testing of traditional internal combustion engine components, and it was natural to expand their experience in developing solutions dedicated to the leak testing of electric motors, but more specifically testing of battery system. Starting from the complete battery pack or the components of the battery pack, including the leak testing at cell level, battery cell level. This is also a field where we are developing their new solution, new technologies, able to test the perfect sealing also on completely sealed battery cells. Testing the battery cell is not an easy task.
Yes.
Because first, the importance of the test, because you definitely do not want to have any electrolyte leaking, and you do not want to have any moisture or water able to enter the cell. But the cell is a closed component, so usually leak testing needs a hole
Yes.
to fill with air or to fill with a tracer gas. But in a battery cell, the finished battery cell, this is not available. So that's why we have developed a method to directly trace the vapors of the electrolyte and to measure the amount of leak, measuring the quantity of vapor of electrolyte which is coming out from the cell. This is not the only competence center that we have for electromobility. Briefly, remaining on batteries, we have another company of the group which is located also in the north of Italy. The name is the company is Electric System, but it's one of the company of Marposs, where we are developing our solution dedicated to electrical testing of batteries and end-of-line testing, so the complete functional testing.
Validation.
The validation, that is where it is requested to measure, for instance, the open circuit voltage or the internal impedance of the cell, and possibly also to make grading and selection of the cell. This is another critical issue, especially for automotive clients. When you have the cells into the pack, you definitely need to have a perfect balance of the cell, because yes, you have the battery management system trying to keep the behavior of the cells perfectly balanced, and the charge and discharge of all the cells progressing. But if the cells are too different, one respect to the other, it will become difficult to have an efficient management of the battery. That's why we propose solutions that will give the possibility to measure the electrical parameters and also to classify the cells in order to have only cells with the same behavior into the module and the battery.
So a question stuck right now in my mind that right now we are importing a lot of battery cells. So let's say for example all the manufacturers who are importing these battery cells from different countries like Japan or maybe China. So when they land in India, are whether they should test it in India or it would have been done back in their country. How this goes? Like if a shipment lands in India and I am pushing those batteries in my cars or maybe vehicle. So who will test it? They will test it, or for us when the product is brought in India and we are assembling. So we should test it before giving it to customers.
My suggestion would be yes, at least for a couple of reasons. The first is that the battery cells are tested immediately at the end of the manufacturing process.
Okay.
The last operation of the manufacturing process of a battery cell include first a formation, so that means are the first charge cycle to activate the cell.
Okay.
Afterwards, there is a pretty long time spent in warehouses.
Correct.
Could last 2 or even 3 weeks.
Yes.
And this is a time that is needed to the cells to show if there are failures. Okay? After this period, there is the end-of-line testing. So it is expected that this time is sufficient to identify the good or scrap cells. This could be sufficient, usually it is. Could be not enough to show what is the real behavior of the cell.
Correct.
After this, the cell will be packed, shipped, maybe remained in other warehouses for a certain time, and then later assembled into the model. At this stage, it could be recommended first to have a simple income check
Okay.
to verify that there are no problems
Okay.
that had appeared after the aging process in the manufacturing line. Second, you have the possibility to make a selection, class selection, a grading of the cells according to the specific needs that you have for your model, for your pack. So that means that the strategy for classification could be different with respect to the strategy used for testing by the producer.
Okay.
Because you're producing the model, you know your model, you know your pack, you know how your battery management system will work.
Correct. Okay, so I wanted to ask, is there any users in India who's using your machine? Don't name the client, but still, how many people are using your machine? Active cases.
We are working on it. We are working
Okay.
on it.
Okay. So
And I would let me answer one comment. This is the reason why the Indian market for a company like us is so interesting.
okay.
Because as I said before, we started to work in this field in 2017, 2018. Okay? Of course, we had already product that could be used for the quality control on the electric powertrain. Others had to be developed this year. Okay? In the meanwhile, countries like China or Japan or Korea were producing battery cells since many years. Okay? So it's clear that it's definitely more difficult to enter a market, to jump on a train which is already running. Okay? India is particularly interesting because it's a market which is starting to invest now. There is a huge potential for the future. And here is where we can start to cooperate side by side with customers, starting from the pilot line. Before entering mass production, you definitely need to validate your chemistry inside the cell. You need to establish a pilot line to verify that what you have considered in your R&D lab can be produced. And then finally make the jump to the mass production. So the Indian market for us is extremely interesting exactly for this reason, because we have the opportunity to start this journey, this trip, together side by side with the companies which are doing this since the very beginning.
And any special or any new launches for 2023, or your expectation from Indian market? Any investment, any new offices, any announcement? Because I know a lot of things, like 2023 for us, we are closing our books. So any launches, anything for India? Well, how is HO looking at India?
Let's say that it's better for me to answer to this question than Franco. I'm running the operation here in India, so let's say that for 2023, even considering that for us, 2023 is starting on the 1st of January, but I know that the financial year for India is different. Anyway, 2023 will be, yes, there are very interesting plan on the pipeline that I really hope that will be concretized by the end of the year, so will be completed by the end of the year. So for sure, increasing our workforce, that is for sure. Diversifying also our kind of market segment like in order to penetrate better in the market. Then also for the infrastructure point of view, there are investments ongoing that, as I said before, will be concretized by the end of the year.
My last question, Franco, to you is
Before your last question, let
Okay.
me add a couple of words about the last two competence center, because I'm
Okay.
afraid
Yes,
that my
yes, yes.
colleagues otherwise
will-
would not
they
be
will.
Yes, we have done three.
because we have two more
more.
companies working on EV topics.
okay.
One is a recent acquisition, I think, a couple of years ago. EDC is a company specialized since many years in electrical testing of electric motors.
Okay.
And we have also an example of one of their products here. And the very last one is a field which is today maybe not crucial for electromobility, but possibly in the next years it will become also interesting for electromobility, which is hydrogen. So we have another company of the group, its name is ETEC, Helium Technology, the name of the company, where we have created our competence center for hydrogen. So for quality check, measurement, inspection, and also complete testing of fuel cells and electrolyzers. This is also a field that could become extremely interesting in the next few years.
So my last question is your message to Indian EV users, or Indian battery manufacturers as a leader in the industry. What is your message to them about your products, or just a general?
I leave the technicality to Franco. From my perspective as a director of operation here in India, the thing is don't compromise on the quality of your products. Don't follow the cheapest solution, because it's not the way, especially in this field, it's not the way.
One additional comment, I would say that we see today a very big change involving all the countries of the world. Okay? At different levels, we are all in some way called to answer to this. I have the feeling, I really think that the concept of mobility is going to change in the next years. Of course, not all of the countries will change at the same speed, but this is the direction where we are going. Okay? And in some way, sooner or later, we are all called to face climatic problems and in some way to give an answer. I'm not here to say that the existing generation of batteries will last forever or for hundreds of years. We cannot compare the internal combustion engine we had or we have today with what we had one century ago. Okay? But nevertheless, this was a long history for internal combustion engine of a technology that had a progressive evolution. Okay? And here now we are making the first step in what could be the evolution for mobility for the next sector. Okay, so we must be in. We means everybody. Means Italy, means India, means the rest of the world. Everybody with its time. Okay? But we cannot think, okay, we want to remain outside. We want to keep our tradition. Of course, tradition must be little by little. but we must be able.
This last question is from my end. It's my personal, just for my knowledge, I'm asking you. What happens to the batteries like e-waste? Normally we produce, like we have batteries which are discarded or scrapped. So usually, just for my knowledge, I wanted to ask what we do with that. How does that affect the environment also?
This is another field that will give a lot of opportunities also for business because
Yeah.
it's clear. Okay,
Yeah.
we must work on the circular economy. Okay, so already today it is foreseen a second life for the battery used for the very challenging standards for automotive.
Yes.
Okay, and that can be reused for stationary storage. For so exactly as they are. As soon as a battery pack has lost the 20% of the capacity, is no more usable for automotive,
Okay.
but it's still perfectly usable for different applications. So already there is a second life possible for batteries. And then the next step will be recycling. There are already a lot of studies and investment working in a circular manufacturing chain that will give the possibility to recycle not just the component, but even the material inside itself. So this will be, of course, one of the challenges for the next years.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir, for your
Thank you.
time. Thanks, Mr. Franco. Thanks, Luca, for your time.
Thank you very much.